Everything you need to know in the new Phantom Forces Independence Day update. I'm actually recording this a day before, so I'm recording this on the test place, but everything should pretty much be the same. So before we start this video, please be sure to subscribe, because look at this chart. There's a lot of you that aren't subscribed, so go subscribe right now, and it helps me out a lot. And I also do a lot of these update videos, so stay tuned to know all the information that you'd need to know in every Phantom Forces update. Of course, one of the biggest changes so far is the fact that we now have the flag case, which is a bunch of different, different countries here. And yeah, I don't know. I think this flag case is pretty cool. I think it's pretty interesting. I think the more common the player is in like a specific place, the more rare it is. Like the most players for the for Phantom Forces from the United States, so that's the rarest one. It just keeps people spinning, I guess. First of all, we have the M16A3. I kind of covered this in the last video, but this got new recoil and increased muzzle velocity. So this is essentially what the recoil looks like. As you can see, it's a lot more accurate, and it's probably one of the most accurate guns in the game at this point. So yeah, I mean, that's that. I think this is a really good change to the M16A3, and it's definitely one of the better assault rifles now that this change has been added. So yeah, I think this is definitely worth a try. Next up, we have the K2. This thing got an increased fire rate. It now fires at 820. Its ranges were also increased, and its velocity was increased, but its damage was kind of decreased in a way. Its close range damage was changed to 32 when before it was 33, which really isn't that big of a deal in my opinion, but yeah. The torso multiplier was also removed on this thing. It used to be 1.1, but now it's 1. There's a guy here. Goodbye, haha. The guy down there. Yeah, I don't know. I think the K2 is definitely a lot more usable now, despite like the slight damage nerfs. I just think it's kind of better than it was before, because it was a little bit sluggish, and there was really no reason to use this over the M16A3. And I think that's kind of still true, but it's just it's slightly better and it's more usable. So I think this is good. Alright, next up we have the AK-47. This thing got new recoil and reduced reload speeds, and a new firing sound, and a new weapon model. So yeah, pretty much all of the aesthetics behind this thing have been changed, plus a slight recoil buff. So here's what that looks like. I'm not sure what to think about the weapon sound. I do have ARS suppressor on here, so I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take that off just to kind of get a better ear thingy hearing. I don't know. That's what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like. Yeah, it does feel a little more accurate. I will give it that. I think it does feel a lot better to use. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely feels a lot better. I think this is a pretty good change. I also like the new weapon model. The new weapon model is good. Next up, we have the HK337, which is the HK416, but with the 300 conversion. And the close range damage was increased to 38, so that's actually insane. But the damage ranges was also increased, so now it's 60 when before it was 55. And the torso multiplier was increased to 1.1, and the penetration was increased to 1.2. So this thing is actually insane right now, I'm not gonna lie. And this thing specifically with the squad barrel, I believe, yeah, so that's the long barrel, it can 3-tap to the torso up to 99 studs, which is actually super good. So it has a pretty far 3-hit kill range, and all the while, I mean, the recoil isn't bad on this thing at all. Like, it's actually super accurate. So this is actually a pretty decent weapon option now. The AK-74, the AKM, the AK-103, and the Type 88 all got new weapon firing sounds. Here's what the AK-74 sounds like. Here's what the AKM sounds like. Here's what the AK-103 sounds like. And here's what it sounds like with the bars barrel. Here's what the Type 88 sounds like. And here's what it sounds like with default ammo. But yeah, moving on to the C7A2, this thing got increased velocity and better recoil. Here's what the recoil on this looks like. I mean, actually, I think I have, hold on, I think I have Grendel on this. Yeah, here's what the actual recoil looks like. So it's actually a beam. I think this is definitely like one of the best recoil assault rifles in the game. I don't think it's as accurate as like the AN-94, but it's definitely like second or third. And now when you put on the LSW barrel, this makes it the Dymaco LSW, which is super cool. But that increases its muzzle velocity to 3100 and its penetration to 1.1. And it also got a new firing sound, so this is what it sounds like. But yeah, I think these are some pretty good C7A2 changes. I think that's pretty cool. Next up, we have the UMP45. The minimum damage was increased to 22, which means this thing is actually a universal 4-hit kill with armor piercing, so now it can 4-shot all ranges with that. Its RPM was increased to 650, and there is now an additional 2-burst firing mode. Then with the 40 S&W conversion, the minimum damage is now 20, the max range is now 65, and it has rising recoil now, so yeah. Or actually, correction, it lowers layer 2 rising recoil, so it actually got less recoil. That's what I meant to say. The gyrojets now have different muzzle velocity. The carbine has 500 muzzle velocity, and the pistol has 300 muzzle velocity, and they have slower muzzle acceleration, but yeah, I don't know. Now, one of the guns that got the most changes is the WA2000. The walk speed was increased to 12.5, and with the, the 7.5 conversion has its torso kill again, but it's only up to 30 studs compared to the base gun's 50, so it's kind of not really worth using over the default ammo. And then the really big kicker is the 300 Win Mag. This thing basically has super fast recovery and a lot better damages and stuff like that. So essentially it's 250 fire rate, and it only takes like 2 shots to kill them at long range to the torso, while also being a 1-shot to a pretty far range. I guess I'll try to show that off a little bit just to just kind of show what I'm talking about, if I can find any enemies without getting killed. But yeah, of course, it's a 1-shot at close range to the torso, not necessarily the limb. I think the limb damage actually isn't that great on this thing, but it's whatever. If there's a guy here, just like that, 1 tap, he's dead. Yeah, I think this is definitely one of maybe the best sniper in the game at this point, because it's actually crazy. If you like red dot sniping, then this is definitely a super good pick. So I definitely recommend checking this out if you like red dot aggro sniping. So yeah, I might have to pick this up a little bit more. There's a guy here. Teammate got him. Yay. The G36K actually got decreased reload speed, so it's a little bit faster now. The Groza 1 got a new firing sound. Here's what that sounds like. The OTS actually got some really big buffs, which makes this thing a lot better now. But the new recoil is a lot more accurate on this, and the long range damage was increased to 23, which is actually a 4-shot to the torso at long range. And speaking of ranges, the ranges were also increased, and the torso multiplier is now 1.05. Before it was 1. The walk speed was increased, the aim model speed was increased, and the reload speeds were decreased, but the close range damage was actually decreased to 34, which actually isn't a big deal at all, because it's still a 3-shot at close range with 34 damage. But yeah, this is a 3-shot to 4-shot now, and I mean, I think this thing's super good right now, despite how sluggish this thing can kind of be, because it's 600 fire rate. So I mean, that's that. It's not really that big of a deal with the damage it does. But yeah, this gun's a lot better now. It's actually worth using, I guess I should say, because I know I would never really touch this thing before because it wasn't that good, but it's actually super good now. I definitely recommend giving this thing a try if you have it. The K1A actually got some huge long-range performance buffs. The long-range damage was increased to 18, when before this thing was actually 16 damage at long range, which was actually just atrocious. I would never pick this up before, but now it's 18, which still isn't the best, but it's definitely a big upgrade. It also got increased ranges and velocity, so there's that as well, and its torso multiplier was removed. And the 7.62 conversion on this is no longer a 4-shot at long range, so that's kind of poopy, but yeah. The AK-105 got a new firing sound, so here's what that sounds like. And it also got a new firing sound with the Bars barrel. Next up, we have some pretty major P90 nerfs. The horizontal recoil was increased and the RPM was decreased from 1100 to 950. So that's 150 less RPM. So the P90 is kind of bad now. I mean, I wouldn't really use this thing, especially when there's other guns like the MP7 that are just kind of better at this point. The P90 just, especially after these nerfs with the horizontal recoil nerf, I don't really think this thing's worth using as much anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's still accurate, don't get me wrong, but it's a little less accurate and there's less fire rate, so it's like, what's the point anymore? The Colt SMG, I just had a stroke, I can't speak anymore. The Colt SMG 633 got a little bit of a buff. The damages were increased on this thing. It was 32 to 18, but now it's 33 to 19, and it actually has a 74.38 stud 3-tap to the limb with hollow point, And with the long barrel on this thing, that makes it a 92.97 stud 3-tap to the limb. And I mean, that makes this thing kinda good at longer ranges now. I know this thing was pretty much just used for close range purposes before, but it has better performance at long range now, which I think is kind of interesting. So yeah, Colt SMG 633, as good as it already was, I guess it's a lot better now. Yeah, that would make this thing like the perfect gun for like Metro, you know, like a good mix between medium and close range combat. That's kind of where this gun will shine at now. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting change. The MP510 got increased ranges, but the problem is that the damage, the close range damage was decreased from 45 to 40, which means it can no longer 2-tap to the limb with hollow point, which is I mean, I guess that's kind of good because it was OP, but yeah, it can no longer 2-tap. And then with the 40 S and W conversion, this thing got decreased ranges, decreased close range damage to 36, and its torso multiplier was removed, so the 40 S and W on this thing was actually hit pretty hard. The AKS-74U got new weapon firing sounds. Here's what it sounds like default. Here's what it sounds like with a 9x19 conversion. The Chris Vector got its close range damage reduced from 40 to 41, which yeah, there you go. Which means you can actually no longer 2-tap if you hit one headshot and one torso shot. So that's kind of, I guess that's kind of good because it was OP. But yeah, that's a little bit of a vector nerf there. In terms of the LMGs, I'm actually recording this a day before the update, but the M60 is supposed to get a remodel at some point and possibly some statistical nerfs, but I don't know if that's going to be pushed tomorrow or not. So if it's in the game, then yeah, it's in the game, and if it's not, it's not. So yeah, there you go. The MG3KWS got very, very improved recoil. Its close range was increased to 25 studs. Its torso multiplier was increased to 1.1. Its head multiplier was increased to 1.4, and its reload speeds were decreased so you can reload faster. But here's what the new accuracy looks like. So it's definitely a lot better, and you can definitely use this thing at like medium range easier now. Like that guy there, boom, he's dead. Yeah, as you can see, this thing actually pretty good for ranges now. So yeah, I think that makes this pretty interesting, because I would almost never use this thing before. In fact, there was almost never a reason to use it before they changed these reload speeds and the accuracy of this thing. So it's definitely a lot better now, and I think it's an LMG that you should definitely try out. Also, the HCAR got new recoil, so the recovery speed is increased, the velocity was increased, and the fire rate was increased. Yeah, so here's what that looks like. Actually, that was with the open bolt conversion, but one thing to note about the open bolt conversion is that its fire rate is 450 now, so it was increased. Before it was 399, so that's pretty good. Yeah, now that I took off open bolt, here's what the default ammo looks like, so that's pretty cool. The SVDS got some notable changes. The damage was revamped. As you can see, there's like a little sweet spot here, which I think is pretty interesting. The torso multiplier is now 1.4 when before it was 1.45, and the head multiplier is now 3 when before it was a 1.8. So I think that's pretty interesting. And the kind of the one thing to note about this is that it has a 34 to 77 stud torso kill range. So it's 1-tap to the torso from 34 to 77 studs, which is kind of like the sweet spot. That's the specifics. And now we actually have a new conversion, the SVDS. That's the 10 by 4.5 or whatever it's called. I don't know. But this thing has a 10-time head multiplier, which means this thing can potentially do 400 to 300 damage, and it has a 216 stud 2-tap to the torso, so that's pretty cool. It's a really good headshot machine, I guess. One thing that I think is kind of cool is that the Hecate actually got new recoil, so here's what that looks like. It's I guess a little bit jumpier, but it's not like it really matters with this thing, let's be honest. Okay, that guy died. The PP2000 got new recoil, which is not really different, so I've heard. Yeah, it's pretty similar. But the long range damage was increased to 20, which is actually huge for this thing, which means it can 5-shot at long range now. It also got increased ranges and an increased torso multiplier, so now it's 1.05 rather than 1, walk speed was increased and the aim model speed was increased, but the penetration was decreased to 0.8. So I think this is actually, this is definitely one of the best machine pistols in the game now. Probably not quite as good as like the ass meat per se, but I think it's still pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the entire update. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I think that about does it for today. Let's see if we can get 50 subscribers and 300 likes, because look at this chart, you guys aren't subscribed. But yeah, I gotta go before I lose my voice. Like my voice is actually cracking so hard. So I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.